Make sure you guys subscribe, hit that like button, everything, man. You know, show my homie some love.
Like in Palestine for the last 75 years, like people thought it was peaceful before October the 7th. 2.3 million people in basically what's a concentration camp. It's not peaceful. 2.3 million people being starved systematically. You know, it's funny, they were calculating, and not funny, haha, funny like what the heck, you know? They were calculating the bare minimum amount of calories that people in Gaza need just so they don't starve to death. You know who else did that? The Nazis.
Really?
The Nazis did that. They were giving them below the UN recommended amount of water. And this has been for like 17 long years. They get like 2 hours, like imagine like you get 2 hours of streaming, then all the electricity in your house goes off and you can't leave your house basically. If you get too close to the gate, they shoot you, even if you're a dog. There's a sea right there that they're not allowed to fish in.
I just like, cause like I had watched the video. I wanted to see like, cause you know when everybody started talking about it was in
Back in October.
October. Yeah, that's when everybody started talking about it.
Yeah.
But then like just like looking back and seeing like, yo, this been going on for like a long time. You know, I think it was it like Great Britain that made the like not knowingly, like they didn't properly make the right adjustments and they were just, it was something like that, right?
They did it on purpose. Basically,
they did it on
happened,
purpose.
Yeah. So the Britain seized control from the Ottomans, from the Muslims.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, 100 years ago was the last time we had a caliphate. Like the
Oh,
Islamic
so
system.
wait, I didn't know the Ottoman Empire was a Muslim empire.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I always heard about the Ottoman Empire, but I didn't know it was a Muslim.
You know
empire.
why? You know why? Because, and I'm gonna answer everything in one answer because it's step by step. We learn a lot about World War One. We wear I don't know if you guys have the poppies here in America. We wear the poppies in Canada. The little like red flower on World War One to remember veterans.
I don't think we do
I guess
that.
it's just a weird Canadian thing then. So we wear these poppies, and they tell us we fought a great enemy during World War One, and we defeated a great enemy, and you know now we're free, and we can basically establish peace in the world and fairness and whatever. The great enemy was just the Muslims. I didn't know that. Growing up, I wore a poppy symbolizing basically the destruction of the system of my own people because they didn't teach it. They didn't talk about it. They didn't say these were the Muslims. And then afterwards, they divided the Middle East to a bunch of different countries so that we don't become one nation again. They systematically tried to keep us separate, and they're still doing that to this day. A part of that was during or after World War II, when during World War One, after the British beat the Ottomans, they seized control of the land of Palestine, and that's why they called it the British Mandate of Palestine. So they had control over it, but the Palestinians were still living there. They didn't just bring a bunch of white people. At this point, they didn't bring a bunch of white people to go live there. They were Palestinian people, but the British controlled, they colonized the land. So what happened afterwards, when World War II happened and Hitler was killing a bunch of Jewish people, the Jews needed a place for safety. But what they did was they said, we only want Palestine. We're not going Uganda. They were offered Uganda, like Argentina, like a bunch of different places. They said, we want Palestine. So they created this facade of a land without people for a people without a land. Like, oh, it's a match made in heaven. This land, holy to a bunch of people, 3 different religions, is somehow missing people. And we're people who belong in that land. But there were people, the Palestinians were there. So what happened, and this is gonna shock you, and you can look it up if you want. The FBI in their library, the database, have an entry. If you just read the abstract section, they say that there were Jewish Zionist terrorist organizations in the land of Palestine that they were so sophisticated that they forced the British government to hand over the mandate of Palestine and hand over control of the land to them.
This is during World War One.
This is during World War II.
Now we're in World War II.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So World War One, British get the control.
So this okay. So World War One, that's when they got the control of Palestine. They colonized it.
Exactly.
World War II, the Jewish people after the Holocaust, they moved them into it.
Exactly.
And so, what was happening during World War One? Like during this period when they were colonizing it, like what was happening during that period?
Yeah, so the Palestinians, whether they were Arab or Jewish, Muslim, Christian, they were all just living in Palestine.
Okay, so it was kind of chilling in World War One.
It was chill, and then around the 30s, because for a while there were talks of making Israel in that land, so like tension was building. In the 30s, you actually had Jewish terrorist organizations coming and like killing even like British officials and a bunch of people in the land of Palestine. And they do what terrorists do. They harm civilians in order to get political power. And the British basically gave them that political power. So that's why the Great Nakba, which happened in in the 40s, when basically Israel was established, they burnt 500 Palestinian villages and basically displaced, expelled, imagine 700,000 people from the land. And that land today is what's Israel. That's their history. They were born and bred in war, in terrorism, and that's what's continuing now.
What about, because you said there was 3 people. What about like the other people who live in there? Did they kick them out, or did they only kick out Palestinians?
No, like anyone who wasn't basically like a white Jew was gone.
Really? So
Everyone.
even the Christians that lived there too, they kicked them out?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
They just bombed one of the oldest churches in Gaza. It's a Christian church. They bombed it. I don't know if you heard about that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, they bombed one of the oldest churches.
No, I really don't, bro. Like the only, like this is where my information comes from. The only thing I ever hear when it comes to the Palestinian stuff is like if I watch Destiny debate or I watch Hassan.
Don't go to don't go to Destiny for any of this information.
Yeah.
Genuinely speaking, and I'm not saying go to one side or the other. Just go to human rights organizations. Right? If you go to Bet Salem, they're a human rights organization in Israel. They talk about all the crimes that the settlers do, that the government does, that Israel does as an entire nation. Go to Human Rights Watch. You can go to Amnesty International for decades. You can go to even the UN, United Nations. They have hundreds of resolutions against Israel saying you need to stop this and do that.
So from World War II to before October, what was like? I know like a lot of atrocities was happening to the Palestinians. Were Palestinians fighting back during this time, or like, or because like what I know is that it just started when they started fighting back was in October, or have they been fighting?
They've been fighting the whole time.
They've been fighting the whole time.
They've been fighting the whole time. So in the beginning, they were trying to fight, and you had like, Egypt was trying to fight as well back when they had some kind of backbone. Egypt is weak nowadays. They're not doing much for the Palestinians basically. Back then they were fighting. Israel did a preemptive strike on a bunch of people, including Egypt, to try and hinder them from even starting to defend the Palestinians. But you always had Palestinian resistance from the very beginning. You always had some kind of group of people who were trying to fight back against the oppression. More recently, it's gotten a bit peaceful because when it goes on for 30, 40 years, you start seeing that, okay, maybe certain methods aren't working. So you had certain people trying and sign actual agreements and accords with Israel. Mm-hmm. And what happened in 67, after a war, and keep in mind they have been fighting this whole time, after a war they agreed this is Palestinian land and this is Israeli land. So Palestinian land and the Palestinian territory under international law is Gaza and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, where the Dome of the Rock is.
It's like that top part and that side part, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Does Israel care? No, because they had illegal settlers, Jewish settlers in Gaza, and they've been illegally occupying it since 1967. Imagine like the day you bought the deed to your home, there was already other people living in it. To this day, they didn't leave. You can't get them out. That's exactly what Palestine was. The day it was recognized internationally that this is Palestinian land, there were still illegal Jewish settlers in there, and Israel was controlling the land. As soon as Hamas came about, in the 80s, by the way, they've been around for a while, as soon as they were elected into power in like 2005, Israel pulled all the illegal settlers out, and they like to end the story there. We pulled out of Gaza. They don't mention the fact that they pulled up giant fences, walls, towers with snipers, and bombed them every couple of years.
So why did it take them so long to take the Israelis out of Gaza? Why did it take them so long?
Because before there was no like kind of official threat. What Israel saw was now Hamas was elected as the official government in Gaza. So they saw this kind of as an opportunity to change plans. Instead of illegally occupying it and having their like illegal settlers there, they thought it's wiser now that we pull out and then just lock them all in a cage. If you guys are enjoying this video so far and want early access to the entire episode with JiDion, then join the Daily Muslim Premium right here on YouTube. If you're a Muslim who wants to be an influencer and create content, then visit MuslimInfluencerAcademy.com. Or if you just want to support us in our work here at the Daily Muslim, then please check out our Launch Good mission, and all 3 links will be down below in the description. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and enjoy the rest of the video.
Okay, so now fast forward to now, since this has been going on for so long, why hasn't it been getting the media coverage that it is now? Like, why is it getting the media coverage that it is getting now? Yeah. Is it because more people are actually caring and are putting in more of an effort, or did something else happen to where and now exploded to like now it's a global issue.
Yeah, so we have to look at things in a greater political context, right? Things don't just happen for no reason. Media doesn't cover something or not cover something just randomly. It is in America's best interest and in Israel's best interest that the Palestinians continue to be unknown or dehumanized, because whatever happens to Palestinians, whatever Israel does to Palestinians, if there's no global support for Palestinians, they can continue doing that, and Israel serves as America's right-hand man in the Middle East to secure their national interests. That's why they kept saying, if Israel goes, America's next. These Muslims are going to come and take Sharia law and like force it down your throat and kill you guys. That's their thing. So the media, what they want to do is victimize Israel and demonize Palestinians to get public support for these wars where America went to Iraq. You know, Netanyahu was the one who was trying to push America to invade Iraq for a very long time.
Who was that? Was that Saddam Hussein? Who was
I believe so.
Was he in power of Iraq during that time period?
I believe so. Yeah, Saddam Hussein. I believe so. Yeah. So that entire war on terror, Israel tried to pull America into that war to get rid of that threat of Iraq, and they succeeded. Then they tried to pull them in a war with Lebanon, and they're trying to pull them in a war with Iran. So America keeps pulling these strings as a political move to try and get America to wipe out their enemies in the region one by one. So back to your question, why is it big now? It's because people aren't going to mainstream media. They're not going to CNN and Fox News to hear about Palestine. If you go to CNN and Fox News, you know what they say? There was a 3-year-old, there was a actually multiple cases. There was a 3-year-old young child, who was shot while she was in the van of her family's vehicle. You know what one of the mainstream news outlets reported?
What?
They said somehow a bullet found its way into a vehicle and hit a young lady. Not a 6-year-old girl, a young lady. Because young lady doesn't sound as bad as a 6-year-old girl being shot.
Yeah.
Magically, it found its way into the vehicle. What the hell is that? It's a young girl who was murdered. Do you know how many kids have died in Gaza?
How many?
Low estimates are 8,000, 9,000.
Since October?
Since October. That's just the children. In total, it's between 30 and 50,000 innocent men, women, and children who have been murdered by Israel. They don't give these numbers blatantly on CNN and Fox News regularly because they know that creates public opinion against America, who's supporting Israel, and against Israel. The difference now is people are going to like things like this, social media, TikTok, Twitter. You see X is rampant with this stuff, and the human beings that are sitting physically at the encampments and sitting at the protests and saying not in our name, the Jews are saying not in our name, and the people that are saying don't use our tax dollars to do this, the actual human beings are causing the changes. Same kind of people that caused the changes for all the revolutions throughout history. Even the Americans who got together and said, we want to be our own independent country. And they united all of America on this journey, and they became the United States of America.
So is Palestine not a country right now?
Under international law, it's not a country or sovereign state. But recently, over 100 countries voted at the UN to recognize Palestine as its own state.
I saw it was like Sweden or somebody, they had recognized wait, okay. So I guess what is Palestine fighting for right now? Are they fighting for more land, or are they just fighting to get all the Israelis out and then to set up their own government?
Right now, what they're fighting for is to be given the right to determine their own state, their own government, their own future in their lands, which is Gaza and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, where the Dome of the Rock is.
But didn't Israel already sign? You said earlier that Israel already signed an agreement that said that, you know.
Yeah, but they've been there ever since. They've been illegally occupying it ever since. There were illegal Jewish settlers in Gaza, in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, and they patrolled and they, it's crazy what they do. The settlers will go to the Palestinians who have flocks of sheep, and they'll scare the sheep away with drones, with their ATVs. They have rifles. You know, the settlers carry guns. You know, the Palestinians aren't allowed to have any. That's the kind of subjugation they live under. They have different roads, they have different passports, they have different license plates. So every facet of life for a Palestinian can be identified, so they can be discriminated against. Israel has always has been illegally occupying and illegally annexing, meaning that they're forcing their own laws and their own regulations onto Palestinians in these lands. So all we're saying is get the hell out of East Jerusalem, of the West Bank. Get the hell out of Gaza. Don't interfere with us having our own hospitals, which all the hospitals in Gaza basically are bombed. Don't get in the way of us having our own airport. All the airports are gone. You can't just fly into anywhere in Palestine, right? You have to go through Tel Aviv or go through one of the borders.
With both sides signing all this stuff, wouldn't that be like basically like a war crime because Israel already like so why then why hasn't like like the U.S. or anybody like stepped in and like yo
because
Israel
it's not
chill.
in their best interest. One I don't know who said this and I hope we can pull it up. One official recently, I don't know if it was public or supposed to be a private statement, they said that the UN was created for Africa and for like these other people, not for us. So it's created to enforce laws upon other nations. America doesn't want to go against their best interest. And their best interest right now, they think the Middle East is Israel. Like, the UN has voted hundreds, I'm not joking, bro, hundreds of resolutions against Israel saying, get the hell out of occupied Palestine. You have no right to be there. You're illegally occupying it. You're belligerently occupying it. You need to leave. They say, we don't care. They don't care. The amount of crimes, like using white phosphorus over a civilian population, using starvation as a weapon, all these things are illegal. That's why all of a sudden, finally, because there's all this traction, you have an actual case against Israel. The ICJ, the International Court of Justice, is like the highest judicial system in the world right now. And they said something huge. They said that it's plausible. Like it's based on the evidence, it's actually conceivable that Israel is committing a genocide in Palestine. And right now, the prosecutor for the International Criminal Court has put out an application to get arrest warrants for Netanyahu and some of the people in his group. That's how serious it is, bro. The highest levels of court are saying now it's time. After 75 years, all of a sudden, now it's time. These people need to be arrested. They need to be held accountable. We need a Palestinian state.
So, okay. Dang. This is like the most information because I tried to find good videos on it, but it's kind of like the videos I would find online, they would just kind of be like overviews of like just like the history, but it's not diving in depth into like the little intricacies and the little thing. So I guess my next question would be like, okay, so what is gonna be how could this end? Like what like is it gonna be like a ongoing continuous war? Is Palestine going to need backing from another major country to maybe go to war with Israel? Or is it going to be something to where it's going to finally be maybe like a peace treaty where Israel will finally hold up their end of the bargain and okay, you guys control it's the West Bank and Gaza, right?
The West Bank is separate from Gaza. The Gaza is
but
the
those
side.
Two are those.
Exactly. They're both Palestine.
So where's the fighting happening right now? Is it the West Bank or is it Gaza?
It's Gaza, but what's happening right now in the West Bank is just as bad. If there's a city called JiDion, and Israel has just killed a bunch of people in JiDion. They literally just go in, they arrest a bunch of people, they kill a bunch of people. That's like if you look up like Amnesty International, any human rights organization, or you just go on Twitter, you type Palestine, you type JiDion. I'll right after this, I'll pull it up and I'll show you one-on-one. You'll see everything they're doing there.
So what's the best option that you are you a Palestinian?
I'm Palestinian, yes.
So what's the best option? I'm not gonna lie. I never really. So how many I feel like I've been seeing like a lot of people are Palestinian. Is there a lot of Palestinians out in the world, or is it just since it's also like a fellow Muslim country, we're gonna support? Is it one of those things, or is there actually like a lot of Palestinians out there?
There are millions of Palestinians.
Really?
There are millions of Palestinians.
Because my homie Tariq on Mr. Beast, he was telling me how he's Palestinian.
Oh yeah.
And I never knew.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. I mean, there's not really an identifier that separates us from any other, Arab or any other place in the region. But yeah, Palestinian is not just Arab per se. It's anyone who lived in that region. So my ancestors lived there. I come from there. I come from that land. A lot of people in America, their ancestors left from Palestine. They fled to different lands and ended up in different European or Western countries. A lot of them went to Jordan, and a lot of them came here. Like my grandfather, by the way, he went to Canada because they can't live in Palestine, right? So as Israel's bringing people, Jewish people, as they have a birthright to be there, they're also further murdering and imprisoning and expelling Palestinians who just can't bear life to be.
How do you want this to end? Like, how do Palestinians want this to end? What is a win for Palestine?
the most common answer that I think generally people would give, and if you go to the protest encampments or ask any intellectual, ask any kind of scholar, what people are asking for is that Israel unilaterally leaves, gets the hell out of Gaza, gets the hell out of East Jerusalem and the West Bank. They leave, they don't touch it, and they allow the Palestinians to have their own government, establish their own rule, and let them have their own airports, hospitals, education systems, their own economy, their own military even, and have the right to defend themselves and determine their own future, where it's completely unimposed on by Israel. Israel just lets them be like they let Iran
recognize
be,
them as a country.
Exactly.
Kind of like, I guess, America with Great Britain, kind of.
Exactly. Or like Israel with any of the Muslim majority Arab countries that they were around. They were fighting, recognized as an official country. That was one of the big things with...
Like the way you made it sound like during the World War I era, it sounded like everybody lived kind of like in harmony, you know. Even though it got kind of janked up when Britain made those divisions and stuff, was it still like good? Like did everybody still live in harmony?
Everyone was living in peace. Like before the 30s and these like Zionist terrorist organizations came and started running rampant, they're like, you were Palestinian whether you're Muslim, Christian, or Jew. There were Jewish Palestinians living in Palestine, and they call themselves Palestinian. Right, this idea of Israel and the Jewish right of return and that stuff, and I'm an Israeli, it did not exist. And I'm not going to say like there was complete harmony, like people, like different countries were going to war, it's World War I. But Palestine itself, there were Christian, Jews, Muslims all living in Palestine as Palestinians. So yeah, things were chill. And then, you know, chaos erupted when Israel imposed itself, and you had these organizations come and start bombing and all that stuff, because they had this vision of just making a Jewish-only state. Now, let me ask you a question. When you have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in a land who are not Jewish, and you say, we want this land to be Jewish-only, what has to happen to the people that are not Jewish?
Either you got to kick them out or kill them.
Exactly.
Bro, can you send me like some videos I can watch? I want to learn more about this.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm going to just be keeping everybody in Palestine in my prayers, man.
I appreciate it.
You know, like, just any war needs to stop.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wish the best for your people, man. I wish the best for your people. And, you know, man, God bless, man. God bless.
I mean, I appreciate it, my man. Thank you so much.
Man, of course, bro. Of course.